Most people believe that money problems come from bad spending habits, poor budgeting, or a lack of discipline. But what if that explanation is incomplete? What if the real reason millions struggle financially has nothing to do with personal failure, and everything to do with a system designed to keep us dependent, indebted, and trapped in work forever? Tonight's video explores a mystery hidden in plain sight: how modern wages and modern debt were engineered to fit together perfectly. Not to help workers rise into financial freedom, but to keep them paying into a system that profits from dependence. Because if you look closely, the wage debt cycle resembles something intentional. By the end of this video, you'll see how this system emerged, why it feels impossible to escape, and most importantly, how individuals can break free from it, even when the odds seem stacked against them. Let's begin. To understand the wage debt cycle, we need to step back more than a century. Before easy credit existed, people saved up to buy things. Homes, furniture, clothing, tools — these were durable goods, acquired slowly. Wages were modest, but so were expectations. That changed dramatically in the early 1900s. Industrialization created mass production. Goods could be manufactured faster than people could afford to buy them. Businesses faced a problem. Supply grew faster than demand. Workers were paid too little to buy the products they built. Economists and policymakers began asking, how do we increase consumption? The solution was simple, yet revolutionary. Give people access to money they haven't earned yet. Enter consumer credit. The modern wage debt cycle was born. But the early architects of this system understood something critical: once people borrow, they become predictable workers. They must show up, must earn wages, they must prioritize repayment. Debt became the silent enforcer of labor discipline. This is where the cycle begins. During the 1920s, department stores pioneered installment payment plans. Automobiles, radios, and appliances, and previously unattainable, have now become accessible. Consumption soared. Then came the 1930s Great Depression. Millions lost jobs. Those unable to repay discovered a truth still relevant today: debt doesn't disappear when income disappears. After World War II, governments faced another dilemma. Returning soldiers needed jobs, housing, and a sense of progress. The solution was mass mortgage credit. Homeownership, once a symbol of wealth, became normal if you took on a 30-year mortgage. Banks earned steady interest. Employers gained a workforce tied to long-term financial obligations. And households normalized debt as the price of middle-class life. This model spread globally. By the 1970s, credit cards expanded consumer debt further. Shopping moved from necessity to identity. Debt was no longer a temporary bridge, it became a lifestyle. But here's the twist. Wages stagnated. Adjusted for inflation, median real wages barely grew. Meanwhile, productivity skyrocketed. Workers produced more value than ever, yet received the same purchasing power. The gap between earnings and living costs grew quietly wider. Debt filled the gap. The wage debt cycle was now locked in place. As the system matured, psychological tools reinforced it. Advertising encouraged emotional spending. Credit companies studied human behavior to increase borrowing. Governments expanded welfare through debt-fueled bonds. Corporations focused on quarterly returns, not sustainable wages. Universities increased tuition, offering student loans as the solution. Housing prices rose faster than income, justified by easy mortgages. Medical systems shifted toward billing insurance through inflated pricing. Each industry played a part in normalizing personal indebtedness. At the same time, technology accelerated consumption. Online shopping removed friction. Pay later apps made borrowing nearly invisible. Debt became automatic. Wages became insufficient by design. And here is the critical mechanism. Debt extracts future labor. When a person borrows money today, they commit future time and effort to repay it. Debt converts future freedom into present consumption. For individuals, that means decades of mandatory work. For the system, it means a stable supply of compliant labor. The wage debt cycle functions smoothly until something disrupts income: recession, illness, layoffs. Automation. In 2008, the housing collapse exposed how fragile the system was. Households dependent on rising prices for refinancing suddenly faced impossible debt burdens. In 2020, the global pandemic shut down economies. Millions became financially unstable, almost overnight. Both crises reveal the truth few want to admit. Most people live one missed paycheck away from default. Why? Because wages never compensated for rising costs. Debt filled the gap until it became unbearable. The system reached its breaking point. Yet instead of reforming it, leaders attempted temporary fixes. Interest rate cuts, stimulus spending, loan forgiveness proposals, inflation targeting its patched cracks without addressing the foundation. Debt increased. Living costs rose faster. Wages barely moved. The cycle tightened. What does the wage debt cycle mean for the average person? 3 major consequences emerge. 1. Loss of time freedom. Debt repayment dictates work schedules. People stay in jobs they dislike because quitting threatens survival. Time becomes controlled by lenders and employers. 2. Psychological stress. Money worries cause anxiety, fatigue, and cognitive overload. Debt becomes a mental burden, shaping decision-making. 3. Limited upward mobility. Wealth grows through investment, but debt requires repayment. People stuck in repayment cycles rarely accumulate capital. As a result, inequality widens. Wealth concentrates among those who lend, not those who work. Oh, this is not accidental, it's mathematical. If debt grows faster than wages, workers fall further behind when working harder. Over the past 50 years, societies have attempted interventions to ease the cycle. Minimum wage increases, social safety nets, student loan reform proposals, affordable housing incentives, interest rate manipulation. But each solution faced backlash or unintended consequences. Raising wages risks inflation. Government aid increases public debt. Rate cuts encourage more borrowing. The cycle adapts. Even personal finance advice, budgeting, paying down debt, avoiding consumption addresses symptoms, not the cause. Because the deeper problem is structural. Borrowing is required to participate fully in modern life. Homes, education, healthcare, these fundamental pillars are financed with debt. Escaping requires more than discipline. It requires strategy. Let's examine recent data. Household debt worldwide reached over $300 trillion in 2024. The average American pays $1,029 per month toward debt repayment. U.S. wages adjusted for inflation have stagnated since the 1970s. 64% of adults cannot cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing. Global student loan debt is over $1.7 trillion. Credit card interest rates hit record highs above 20% APR. These numbers suggest a systemic imbalance, not isolated irresponsibility. Meanwhile, banks posted record profits. Financial institutions earn billions annually from interest, penalties, and fees. Debt as a product is extraordinarily profitable. The wage debt cycle extracts value upward from workers to lenders. Repeated over decades, this creates wealth concentration. Same pattern recurring for generations. Escaping the wage debt cycle is possible for individuals, but it requires deliberate effort. The goal isn't to become debt-free temporarily, it's to exit dependency permanently. Here are the core strategies. Step 1. Create surplus income intentionally. The first key is simple, but difficult. Spend less than you earn. This doesn't mean deprivation. It means engineering a consistent margin, no matter how small, to redirect toward assets, not liabilities. Even $50 per month began compounding empires. Step 2. Build assets that generate income. Wages are finite. Employment income stops when you stop working. Debt payments continue. To break the cycle, asset income must eventually exceed debt obligations and living expenses. Examples: index funds, rental property, online businesses, licensing royalties, content libraries, equities with dividends, skill monetization systems. The mechanism is the same. Transformation of time-bound labor into recurring cash flow. Step 3. Escape consumer debt first. High-interest debt extracts disproportionate value. Eliminating credit card balances frees trapped cash flow quickly. Step 4. Reframe debt deliberately. Not all debt is equal. Consumer debt extracts wealth. Investment debt can build wealth if returns exceed interest. The key distinction: does the debt buy liabilities or cash flow assets? Step 5. Prioritize skills that increase earning power. Wage stagnation means workers must command leverage. High-value skills break dependency on low-control income sources. Skills such as software plus automation, finance plus accounting, digital marketing, negotiation, sales, analytics, entrepreneurship. These increase power in labor markets. Skill acquisition increases income faster than inflation increases costs. 3 core takeaways. The wage debt cycle isn't accidental. Debt bridges the gap between stagnant wages and rising living costs, benefiting lenders. Escaping requires structural action, not just budgeting. Freedom emerges from building assets and skills, not cutting lattes. Time freedom, not wealthy, is the true goal. Breaking the cycle frees future labor from repayment obligations. The system isn't collapsing. It is stabilizing around a reality where lifelong repayment becomes normal. Future generations may consider financial dependence and constant borrowing natural, unless individuals learn how the system works and act intentionally to escape. The question isn't whether you participate, it's whether you participate consciously. If you find this helpful, share it with someone who feels stuck because of money. This channel exists to make financial systems visible, understandable, and negotiable. Subscribe for the next episode, where we'll explain how interest rates quietly shift wealth upward every month, every year. Your path to financial freedom begins when you understand the system shaping your decisions.